السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
My name is Sumaya.
And my name is Abdul Salam.
Welcome all to a new story from the series Stories from the Quran.
Last story we talked about the people of the elephant and how Abraha tried to destroy the Kaaba. But a group of Arabs who value the rituals of Allah decided to defend the Kaaba. But Abraha defeated the army and took the leader as a prisoner of war.
The moral of the first part of the story, the people of the elephant, was to value the symbols of Allah. So let's start the second part of the story.
This story is based on Surah Fil, reference from Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya by Ibn Kathir.
When Abraham went on with his wicked plan to destroy the Kaaba, the Arabs who saw the Kaaba as a very special building came to defend the Kaaba.
Abraha's army and the Arabs' army met. Abraha's army fought with all their strength, with their elephants in the front lines. The Arabs slowly dropped one by one, until the only one who stayed alive was their leader.
Abraha was about to give the order to make the leader perish. But the Arab leader told Abraha,
"Don't kill me, you might find use of me alive."
That convinced Abraha, and he took him as a prisoner of war.
Did the Arabs stop there? Of course not. Another army of Arabs came face to face with Abraha and his huge elephants. The Arabs again fought with all their might, but it was no use, especially that it was the first time that Arabs see, let alone fight, elephants.
Again, the Arabs were helpless, and soon enough, Abraha's army defeated every last soldier. The Arab leader told Abraha, just as the blade of Abraha's sword about to hit his neck. He begged,
Please don't kill me, Abraha, please. Abraha, please, I'll help you. I'll be your guide through this desert all the way to Mecca. Please.
Now don't be shocked of how this leader betrayed the Kaaba. In our Ummah, unfortunately, we have people of this type. They may not have betrayed the Kaaba, but they have betrayed Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam.
Anyway, going back to the story, Abraha was convinced by the second leader's idea, so he took him also as a prisoner of war. He was now giving Abraha a hand, helping him get through the desert, all the way to Mecca. Abraha's army and the elephants marched all the way to demolish the Kaaba, with the second Arab leader showing them the way.
Abraha's army reached to the outskirts of a city that's close to Mecca. It was named At-Ta'if.
Abraha and his army entered Ta'if. The people of Ta'if got so horrified after what happened to the two armies that confronted Abraham. So they decided to protect the Kaaba? No! In fact, they decided to betray the Kaaba just to attain their lives.
When Abraha entered the city, the chiefs of Al-Ta'if quickly brought in the most trustworthy guide to show Abraha the way to the Kaaba. The guide's name was Abu Rigal.
Abu Rigal traveled with Abraha Al-Ashram through the wonders of the deserts, showing him the path towards the Kaaba. Abu Rigal was known as a traitor by the Arabs, and they never forgave his betrayal after that incident.
Abu Rigal died on the way to Mecca. Abraha's army buried his lifeless body. Time passes by, generations die out, and the next generation remembers Abu Rigal's betrayal. And whenever someone passed by that grave while traveling, they threw rocks at it as an insult to the traitor. Abu Rigal.
Meanwhile, in Mecca, the news of Abraha's close arrival reached the people of Mecca like a thunderstorm. They all were depressed and felt helpless, but their chief assured them and told them that Allah would protect his house. All what they needed to do was to make dua, and then he told them to go up the mountains surrounding Mecca to protect themselves from Abraha and his cruel army.
That chief was named Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He and the people of Mecca at the time weren't Muslims. They believed in Allah, but also they believed in other fake gods. So many of them.
Abdul Muttalib decided to go and meet Abraha face to face, not to negotiate the Kaaba, but for another reason. Abdul Muttalib reached Abraha. Abraha was sitting on his throne, while Abdul Muttalib remained standing. Abraha had respect towards Abdul Muttalib for his wisdom and high status. So he sat down on the floor and told Abdul Muttalib to sit next to him.
When Abdul Muttalib started to speak, Abraha's mindset towards him changed. Abdul Muttalib said,
I want you to return my camels that your soldiers took away from me.
Abraha was taken back and replied,
I came to Mecca and have intentions to destroy your holy building, and you ask me about your camels? Abdul Muttalib answered with confidence, Allah is the owner of the Kaaba, and I am the owner of the camels. Abraha was amazed. He ordered his soldiers to give the camels back to their owner, Abdul Muttalib.
The time finally came. Abraha sat on his horse. His elephants stomped along, and the soldiers marched with their weapons. The army was ready to tear down the Kaaba. The people of Mecca stood far away on the mountains, begging Allah to defeat Abraha and his army. Abdul Muttalib did the last thing before walking up the mountains with the rest of his people. He held on the material on the Kaaba and sent in sentence of poetry, asking Allah to beat Abraha. He put his trust in Allah and walked up the mountains, not knowing the destiny of the Kaaba would be.
Abraha and his army of elephants arrived right in front of the Kaaba. Abraha's soldiers drove the elephants in front of the Kaaba. The Arab leader of the first army that tried to beat Abraha's army walked up to an elephant named Mahmud. Mahmud was the biggest, strongest, and leading elephant. He was leading all the other elephants. The leader walked up to him and whispered in one of his massive ears, Fear Allah, this is the house of Allah.
The soldiers dragged the elephant towards the Kaaba, but Mahmud refused to strike the Kaaba. He would move in all the directions except the direction of the Kaaba. The soldier tried and tried and tried to pull the elephant and force it towards the Kaaba, but all the efforts were useless. The elephant would just not obey their commands.
The sky darkened. Something terrible was waiting for Abraha and his army. The sky all of a sudden filled with birds. Not normal birds, but birds that Allah sent. They were of the army of Allah. They came to teach the ones who tried to harm the symbols of Allah a lesson. Each bird held 3 stones from hellfire, 1 in their beak, and their feet held 2 stones.
The stones were burning. The birds let go of the stones and it raced down the sky. The stones stormed on Abraha and his army. The soldiers tried to run away, but the burning stones surrounded them whenever they went, and the soldiers dropped dead until the whole army went extinct.
Abraha tried to run away, but his fate was running after him. On the way to Yemen, where he was trying to run away to, his limbs fell part by part as a punishment from Allah for the acts that he wanted to do. Allah never ever lets the wrongdoer and the oppressor go.
Allah took revenge from Abraha Al-Ashram, and Mecca lived in peace. The Kaaba safe from the enemies of Allah, and people continued to visit this building from all around the world till this day. This year where Abraha tried to demolish the Kaaba was called the Year of the Elephant. It was also the year that a special person was born in. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. أم حسبتم أن تدخلوا الجنة ولما يأتكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء وزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب.
Do you think you will be admitted into paradise without being tested like the ones before you? They were afflicted with the suffering and adversity and were so violently shaken that even the messenger and the believers with him cried out, "When will Allah's help come?" Indeed, Allah's help is always near.
So in this story we saw that the people suffered and were killed because of the oppression from Abraham. He wanted to tear down a symbol of Allah. However, Abraham put down those two armies. Even the elephant that Abraham owned refused to attack the Kaaba, although he was an animal.
He feared Allah because he knew the punishment that awaits the person that does so. At the end of the story, Allah's victory came upon the Arab people. He disciplined on Abraha and his army for their actions. So after trying their best and suffering for the sake of the Kaaba, the victory came. Others betrayed and decided to be traitors instead of defending Allah's symbol.
Victory has an expensive price, which you need to pay for it if you really want it. It takes sacrifice, lots of it.
So does freedom.
Let's think about Gaza and Palestine. We may feel depressed, helpless towards the suffering of our brothers and sisters due to the enemy oppression and the leader's betrayal.
But we can help them reach that victory. Yes, we can. We can fight for their freedom. We can untie those ropes off their hands. We have to. We can't wait for our leaders, unfortunately. We are not living in the times of Umar radiallahu anhu or Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu.
We are living in the times of Abu Rigal and the people of Ta'if who backstabbed the Kaaba. We need hope to achieve this victory. We need the Quran, which we have been repeating this in the last stories, and Sunnah in our hands. We need strong Iman like the people of Gaza have. Strong like the child who was injured and kept repeating to his father, "I am fine, father, I am fine. Don't worry. Be patient, father."
We need to be strong like them for this victory.
Because at the end of the day, all we want is Allah to be satisfied with us so that we can all enter Jannat al-Firdaus together.
Insha'Allah.
For more information about getting to Al-Firdaus,
subscribe to do more good deeds,
give a like to studying the Quran,
and share your knowledge with the rest of the world. That's it for today's story.
Jazakumullahu khairan for joining us.
Ramadan Mubarak.
And don't forget our brothers and sisters in Palestine. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بالصبر والإيمان بالعز والإقدام، هلت رايات النصر بهمة فرسان الشام. بالصبر والإيمان بالعز والإقدام، هلت رايات النصر بهمة فرسان الشام.